I have never seen a company be this transparent to the point where it almost might be a fault. But you know what? I am here for it. I think this is great to see. And it honestly inspires me that this might be pushing Xbox in the right direction. This might be the best we've ever seen Xbox if they can navigate this rough road ahead that they outline in this news article. Let's get into it. This is absolutely insane. Over on the Xbox Wire, Asha Sharma, or Asha and Matt, published this newsletter to their team. It says this message was just sent to Xbox employees globally. This is absolutely wild what is in this newsletter. Companies just don't show this level of transparency ever. We have never seen this level of transparency from PlayStation or Nintendo. This is pretty wild. And what they're about to get into really outlines how rough of a road ahead Xbox has it. And it might get much rougher before it gets better. But one thing this letter does instill in me is confidence that we might have the right leadership in charge to get Xbox back on track. Let's dive in and see what we got here. Team, over the first 100 days together, we have started to revive Xbox. Our platform teams have already shipped more updates in the last 100 days than during the prior year combined. We now have more active players on Xbox than ever before. Our Game Pass team set to work fixing our offering, and after 8+ months of decline, our service has started to grow again. Already, Game Pass numbers for sure were plummeting after that price raise. They announced their price hike that was nearly double what we were paying. And for 8+ months of straight decline, they have finally started to grow again. And through Player Voice, we have a 24/7 channel to hear directly from players, creators, and developers. Let's hope that Player Voice continues to be a good way for players to air their grievances, but not anything close to the rudder steering the ship over at Team Xbox. With Xbox Games Showcase and the return of FanFest, we brought together hundreds of millions of fans globally. I don't know about hundreds of millions, but it was a pretty big deal. We reintroduced exclusives with Gears of War E-Day in 2026 and Clockwork Revolution in 2027. Players can continue to expect signature exclusives from us every year. In parallel, Playground Games reminded us that established franchises can achieve incredible new highs. Well, they just confirmed we are definitely getting more exclusive games, at least one per year, but hopefully multiple. Sony's kind of been in a cadence of 2 to 3 exclusives per year. If Xbox can match that and still manage to put out plenty of third-party games, I think that for now, where they're at, and we'll see further in this message just what I mean by that, I think that's not a horrible cadence. 2 to 3 exclusive games a year, as long as they're big games, I think that'll be pretty enticing for Xbox fans. The results are early, but they demonstrate what is possible when we move faster, stay close to our community, and align behind a shared vision. We have made mistakes and will continue to make them, but what matters is that we listen, learn, and adjust the course where needed. Remember, our fans are rooting for us. All right, here we go. Here's where it starts to get pretty juicy. Now we start the next 100 days. It is important to have both optimism and realism as we work to reset the business. To reset, this is a hard reset for Xbox. They are pulling the plug on everything that came before and resetting Xbox. Here are the realities that we need to navigate. Over 1 billion players choose to play Xbox and our games each year, for a total of 72 billion hours across console, PC, mobile, and streaming, excluding much of China and a few other properties. Our franchises are also among the largest and most beloved globally and are now breaking records in TV and film. Going forward, our competition is attention. There are more great games, TV series, franchise, and creators, content formats, apps, etc. than ever before. Yet look, there's a lot of stuff out there competing for our attention. Attention spans are shorter than ever. That is no secret. Everybody's been saying that their competition isn't the other guy, it's attention. We get that. That's kind of always been the case, but now I think the real thing is attention spans have just gotten shorter and shorter, and there are more and more apps that cater to these shorter attention spans. 1 billion players, 72 billion hours is huge, but that is, again, across console and PC, so those are big numbers to throw around, but again, you know, when you start throwing in all these different devices, it kind of muddies the water, especially when you look at mobile. So I'd like to see just how many people are spending time on console and just PC, Xbox. Like just the Xbox app, not playing Xbox games on Steam, just the Xbox app on PC and console. That's kind of like where I'm interested to see how this goes. But this is a number one. I don't know how that's a point to navigate other than the attention thing, but it gets better. 2, we will end this fiscal year at about a 3% accountability margin, down year over year. That is not good. That is frightening. Excluding Activision Blizzard King, over the past 5 years, they have spent $20 billion on ongoing investments in our content, platform, and hardware subsidy. But our annual revenue has declined nearly $500 million during that time. Going forward, this cannot continue. No kidding. 3% accountability margin, $20 billion worth of investment, not including ABK, which was around another $80 billion. So like $100 billion spent, and they are $500 million declined on annual revenue. It was worse than we could have imagined over at Xbox. Like they were drowning. Like they weren't just starting to drown. Like they had been under the water, holding their breath for minutes at this point. Like they were turning blue. This is literally, they were putting their games on PlayStation. They were turning blue. This is insane. Again, 3% accountability margin, $80 billion on Activision Blizzard, and $20 billion on other investments, all into the platform that is continuing to decline by nearly $500 million annually. Insane. And crazy that they're just coming out and telling us this. Like, this is a level of transparency unheard of. We are in a hardware component crisis. When I joined as CEO in February, the price we paid for console storage components was over twice as high as we paid last fall. These costs have since doubled again. And as we plan for the 2027 holiday season, we expect another significant increase, taking us over 5 times the prices we paid only 2 years earlier. Why is that 2027 holiday season highlighted? My guess is that is exactly when they're planning to ship Project Helix. The fact that they just said we're planned for the 2027 holiday season, they might as well have just said as we plan to release Project Helix in the holiday of 2027. That's what they're saying. Otherwise, this means absolutely nothing. Memory costs have followed a broadly similar trajectory. Of course, while the entire industry is facing a component crisis, we believe that we have been impacted more greatly than many of our peers due to the choices we made over the last half-decade. We are currently unable to make as many consoles as players want to buy, and we need a new business model and partnerships for hardware as we remain committed to Helix. They can't make Xboxes. Now, people are going to say, oh, I see Xbox sitting on store shelves. Look, sell through and sell in are different. The places that are carrying Xboxes, once those sell, it's going to be hard for them to get more. They do not have the ability to make as many Xboxes right now to sell into the market as they are going to be selling through or are predicted to sell through. Not only that, but this tells us that what Jez Corden reported on a couple of weeks back, that they screwed the pooch. They were buying their components quarterly, where Sony and Nintendo buy annually. So they did not have the RAM or memory or storage in place to continue to build Xbox. They were not prepared for this price hike, which is mind-blowing when we think that this is Microsoft. They didn't think to look ahead. They're causing this thing. They are buying this stuff by the buttload for AI data centers. And they didn't think to say, oh, we might should do that to Xbox as well. We might should buy a little bit ahead or buy some extra. The prices are going up. Like, is this the most disjointed company in America? This is insane. The fact that they are outright just saying it. The entire industry is facing a component crisis. We believe we have been impacted more greatly than many of our peers. Outright saying Sony and Nintendo and these other makers, they made better choices. They literally say, due to the choices that we made over the last half decade, not to competitive advantages or some third party manipulating the market and making it bad for us. No passing the blame here. They're saying, hey, the last 5 years we fucked up and we're suffering the consequences. Right now, we cannot make enough consoles. One, the accountability is great to see. Like, this is, while it is dire and it's like, holy crap. I mean, Microsoft's a trillion-dollar company, multi-trillion-dollar company. They're fine. Like, I'm not worried they're going to go under. Xbox is going under. They're committed to Xbox, but this is like bad. I could easily have seen where they just said, no, we're done with Xbox. Like, there had to be a point where they were like, all right, do we recommit or are we wiping this? Because this is just going so poorly. It's not funny. Imagine Phil walking into Nadella's office and just being like, boss man, oh, it's not good. It's not good. I messed up. Like, this is insane. But again, the accountability is great to see. So the fact that they have recommitted and are being accountable shows that they're probably going to fix this. If there is a way to fix this, if money can fix this, and we know they have more money than God, they will fix this. Number 4, we expanded our studio system when we needed a pipeline of content to meet multiple strategies across subscription, streaming, and devices. Again, they were like, we're going to be everywhere. Game Pass is going to 100 million. People are going to be playing on the cloud. We're going to be on your phone. We're going to be on your freaking refrigerator. Like, they wanted to be everywhere, so they bought ABK. Now, again, ABK was not a bad investment, despite what some people say. Like, if they can turn it around, having some of those ABK franchises in their back pocket to pull from will be great. Like, let's be real. Prior to some of the building that Phil did do with the studios, they were a Gears, Forza, and Halo company. Now, luckily, they had Fable back in the mix. They had Rare doing some stuff, but largely everybody for a long time. I remember so much through the 360 days and heading into the Xbox One, everybody was like, are you going to make another Gears? Are you going to make another Halo, another Forza? Like, that's all they were doing. So having ABK, along with all the other properties they've built up and Bethesda, like, they've got such a huge well of properties to pull from. If they spin this around, they are going to have a limitless supply of content and IP. And a tremendous system of developers. A huge network. And if they get them all like cohesive and working together, that's going to be next level. Continuing on. In the process, we have found ourselves overextended, you don't say, as we executed on changing strategies in a landscape of more readily available content. We are the fortunate stewards of industry-defining franchises that have enormous potential and player demand, but we have not adequately funded them to compete and win. Like, there's just outright saying, we got these studios, they're awesome. We spent so much buying them that we didn't give them the money to make cool shit after the fact. I could easily see something like Obsidian not having the funding that they needed to really make Avowed or Outer Worlds a Skyrim level game. Some of these studios just haven't been given the amount of funding needed to make AAA blockbusters. They're just saying it outright. Like, hey, we haven't funded our studios properly. We have the studios, but we're just not giving them enough money to make the stuff that would save us. Again, accountability, acknowledging this, huge, huge. At the same time, as we saw this past weekend at Showcase, a reliable pipeline of first and third-party exclusives and new IP are critical to our success. We need to reassess the balance between these and our investment priorities for the next 5 years. is saying, hey, we need to invest more in our studios and on first and third party exclusives. Remember back in the day how big of a deal it was when they announced the DLC for Grand Theft Auto 4 and it was Xbox exclusive? Like, it was timed, obviously, but it was a timed Xbox exclusive. I was a PlayStation guy at that time. I didn't have a 360 anymore. I was so mad that I couldn't play GTA 4's DLC. And they used to get Call of Duty DLC ahead of time. Like, Tomb Raider was an exclusive to the Xbox console for a period of time. Like, they used to be the guys for third-party console exclusives. They just kind of gave that up. And now PlayStation does it all the time. Xbox just got Final Fantasy. Like, they just fixed that. So hopefully moving forward, they can really start working on more third-party exclusive content. And obviously first-party and new IP. Number 5. This is a pretty big one. Our current platform infrastructure is not built for the battle ahead. Our systems are overly complex, spanning hundreds of dependencies, which hinders our ability to move fast. We've become too reliant on vendors to operate our systems and must become more self-reliant as an engineering culture to build for the future. We must increase the value we ship to players while decreasing the time it takes to do so. Going forward, we'll evolve and rebuild our stack and look at capabilities across all of Xbox and potential mergers and acquisitions to help us win in hardware, PC, mobile, and streaming. Okay, that's a lot to break down. First off, they're acknowledging that, as we know, huge corporations move so slow. The bigger you grow, the slower it is to get stuff done in a company like that. And when they are having to bounce things around between hundreds of people, as they say, hundreds of dependencies, you might be ready for something for 6 months before whoever you're waiting on finally gets around to it. It just starts stacking up on certain desks and there becomes bottlenecks in the pipeline the bigger the company gets. Again, acknowledgement, huge. They also say that they've become too reliant on vendors to operate systems. So a lot of the stuff they're using is not in-house. And that means they're also not only reliant on these multiple bottlenecks that are probably in-house that are overcomplicated, they're reliant on people outside of Microsoft that are bottlenecking their ability to move quickly. That is absolutely insane. They must increase the value they ship to players and decrease the time it takes to do so. Again, a recommitment to increasing the value that consumers get while also doing it at a much faster pace. And here's the really big one that I think is going to be really important and probably shock some people when we hear some news in the coming months. Going forward, they're going to rebuild their stack and look at capabilities across Xbox and potential mergers and acquisitions to help us win in hardware, PC, mobile, and streaming. What does that mean? What mergers and acquisitions? No, I don't think we're looking at any more developers. I don't think there's any publishers or developers getting bought anytime soon, unless it's very small ones or indie studios or something like that. I think Xbox is going to look to hardware manufacturers to help fix their supply issue. Xbox obviously screwed the pooch when it comes to RAM and storage and memory. But other companies didn't. Asus, Lenovo, MSI. Those companies could have plenty of supply. They could have signed a really good contract with Foxconn or one of the other manufacturers, and they might have a much more readily available supply, or at least contract to gain supply of some of these assets that Microsoft really needs to build Helix and continue to build Series X and do it at a, fast pace. So I could easily see them announcing that they're purchasing something like Asus. They already partnered with them on the ROG Ally. They would immediately gain ownership of that handheld division and that hardware division that is making these handhelds for Xbox. They already have a working relationship. They could integrate that in as a dedicated Xbox handheld device, fits right in with Project Helix as an Xbox PC hybrid, and use those assets to help gain a leverage over this issue they've got themselves in. On top of that, it could help them get inroads to companies like Nvidia. I could see them leaning on Nvidia for, I mean, what if we get a different SKU for Helix? What if they have like an AMD SKU that's kind of a little bit cheaper and then an Nvidia SKU? That seems a little crazy because I want to say that they're going to kind of lean on AMD and their upcoming technologies like FSR to really build into their Xbox developer stack. I don't know. Nothing's off the table at this point. A return to Nvidia for consoles, that would be huge news. I don't know if it would be good news, but it would be huge news. But again, there are other manufacturers. I think Asus is the most likely due to the relationship they've already built. But Lenovo and MSI both also make these same PC handhelds, and both are a hardware manufacturer that could easily work with their relationship with these other producers to help alleviate some of the issues Xbox is having with hardware. So I think when we see mergers and acquisitions, I'm not looking at developers or software. I am looking at hardware companies. Sure, partnerships maybe, but even if they partner with Asus or MSI or any of these companies, they don't have full control over what those companies are doing. So I think they're going to want to own that. I think they don't want to create any more of these bottlenecks where they're waiting on a partner to do this or do that. They want to own that entire stack. So I could really see them purchasing Asus at this point, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that news sooner rather than later, because it's going to take time for them to integrate those systems into their current, developer stack or whatever you want to call it. And the sooner they do that, and the sooner they get everything integrated and all this stuff ironed out, the better it is going to be, especially with them trying to not only continue to build Xbox Series X, but as they look forward to trying to make sure Project Helix is ready to go in the holiday of 2027. For some of you, these realities will be surprising and even frustrating to discover. We won't succeed by hiding hard truths, nor will we succeed by doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like the everyday wins mentality from the first 100 days, we will sprint to make progress against hardware, content, experience, and services together. Xbox is one of the few places where people come not just to play, but to connect with others, to create memories, with console at the center of how our showcase experiences are defined. Windows as one of the largest gaming platforms in the world, and incredible games under our roof as one of the largest publishers in the world, we have the foundation in place. Let's reset for a stronger Xbox and build the #1 gaming and entertainment company, Asha and Matt. Okay, first off, I've never seen anything quite like this. This is something that is unprecedented for a gaming company to do. This level of transparency is refreshing. It paints a very grim and scary picture, but it is very refreshing to see. On top of that, the level of accountability and acknowledgement for their past issues and their problems, huge. Acknowledgement, as everybody knows, is the first step in growth. If you can acknowledge the issue, you can work through the issue. The fact that they're putting it all out there, they're taking accountability for the stuff that they screwed up, acknowledging it, and saying, hey, here's how we're going to fix it. This is the most promising thing I have read from Xbox since this entire, just in years, to be honest, but definitely since Asha took over, but in years, to be honest. They also reaffirm that console is the center of their showcase experiences. They say Windows is one of the largest gaming platforms. So again, they can integrate Windows into their console ecosystem and kind of integrate both. Why not? Why not make it? It'll make faster to work for everything. Why have to develop for Xbox and Windows when it's all based on DirectX when you look at their underlying gaming systems? So, and again, things have moved a lot further down the road since the Xbox was called the Xbox because of DirectX. It's a lot more complexities in there now, but at its core, gaming across Windows and Xbox should be a similar process for creators and developers. Anything they can do to alleviate that will help them down the road. And obviously they mentioned that they're one of the largest publishers in the world. They have a huge amount of games, developers, and studios. It's interesting that they kind of put that separate as a separate pillar. The 3 pillars they outlined were console, Windows, and the publishing. So I think we're not going to see them get totally away from third-party publishing. They're viewing the publisher of Xbox and the console manufacturer of Xbox as two separate pillars. Now they can work together and integrate. That publisher is going to feed Xbox exclusive games. They're going to have your highlight exclusives, your pinnacle exclusives, your Gears. I doubt we see another Halo ever on PlayStation. I doubt we see Forza come to PlayStation. If Forza 6 does continue to come to PlayStation, even though we don't have a date, but it has technically been announced, I don't think Forza Horizon 7 or whatever the next Forza is, I don't think that comes to PlayStation. I don't think we see that many more of the big tentpole Xbox exclusives come to PlayStation. That being said, I do think we continue to see lots of the smaller games come to PlayStation. The Sinuas, the Call of Duty, obviously, because that is, and it's a court order at this point for at least a decade from the acquisition. And even after that decade's up, I still think Call of Duty goes multiple places because it just kind of thrives there. Your Minecrafts, your Elder Scrolls Online, but I think Elder Scrolls 6, stuff like the next Doom, stuff like that, that's coming exclusive to Xbox. And I think they can do for even these smaller games is give Xbox exclusive content. So sure, you can buy Call of Duty on PlayStation, but we're going to have exclusive content over here on Xbox. They could do that for a number of their published games that they're making third party. Yeah, you can get it over there. Sure, we'll sell it to you, but you're going to be getting a lesser experience because Xbox is going to have the content complete package. Anyway, this was just crazy to see. I had to make a video on this because it's refreshing to see such transparency. It is horrifying at the same time, but it also makes me very hopeful. And again, I really see an Xbox that is hungry. I see them really putting on the gloves at this point and fighting. Not only is this keeping them in the eye of the gaming world and the industry, like at this point, Xbox is the talk of the industry. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. PlayStation is still putting up numbers, making better games, objectively speaking, just based on ratings and everything. Although Forza was huge for Xbox. But everybody's talking about Xbox. I'm not making a video about Sony right now. They're not putting out crazy news highlights. Like this is insane. But I just wanted to touch on this really quick because this is pretty wild. I appreciate everybody watching. Have a good one.